So I'm making actually a what we call a bleed brake block, and it's something that you insert into the calipers of a bike when you change the hydraulic oil. Very simple to make, but there you go. And I'm also here to talk about how we're all getting sucked into the world of the tech oligarchs, and how now increasingly we are slaves, we're financial slaves to their every whim, that we have absolutely no democratic say in what is going on, and they are fleecing us completely of our money, and we are accepting it completely. They're pretty much taking 20-30% of our hard-earned money in one way or another. And once we've been sucked into this vortex, this tech ecosystem, which we're all happy to engage with, and I am now, yes, look at me, there's no way out of it. And in a way, once trapped, we will buy whatever they tell us we have to buy in order to continue our lives. And a good analogy for this, of course, is that, you know, the food and drink you get in a football stadium, or the cost of entertainment on a cruise ship. You know, once you're locked onto the ferry or the cruise ship, or you're in that football stadium, you have no choice. In the case of the football stadium, you know, the €12 burger, which has a value of maybe a few pence, you know, where they buy those burgers frozen from goodness knows how in huge sacks. I used to do it myself, actually, when I was a chef. You buy these huge sacks of the cheapest burgers, and they used to cost 10 pence each. And now they can flog them for whatever. So let's have a look at what a typical family of 4 might be paying in subscriptions at the moment. You've got 4 mobile phone contracts, so you tell me what you think. You know, it's going to be how much a month? It's going to be anything between 80 and 180 a month for those. 2 teenagers, 2 adults. You've got your home broadband, you're probably looking at about anything between 30 and 50 euros or quid a month. And then you've got streaming services on top of that. At least 3 streaming services. Let's be honest, I know people with more. There are very few people now who only survive on Netflix. And then you've got music subscription sites. I mean, that might not be for you old geezers, but maybe for your teenagers. They have Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And then, because of the nature of the way we live now, we need cloud services. So we do need cloud storage if we want to, you know, keep all our stupid photographs that we never look at. You know, I know people who've got 100,000, 200,000 photographs that they've never even actually looked at. They've taken, but they've never actually looked at. And why would they? You know, it's a picture of a swan in the park. Never mind. And then, of course, on top of that, you've got to think about, just like if you look at the annual cost of, say, a car, then you always take into account depreciation. So in this case, what we're going to take into account is device replacement fund. And why do we need to do that? Well, because devices need replacing very regularly, probably every 2 to 3 years at the most. And of course, that's engineered into the entire digital ecosystem. The fact that things change so rapidly. Software updates mean that apps don't work properly, phones slow down, laptops slow down. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. And there are other things as well. Some people like antivirus software and all sorts of subscriptions for this or that. And we haven't even talked about gaming, really. But what about gaming subscriptions? It may well be that at least one of you has a gaming subscription, and therefore probably has to buy games. And, you know, so what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at, for an average family, somewhere between 3,000 and 7,000 euros or pounds. And it sounds a lot, and it is a lot, and it's surprising. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. And what's interesting is that most of these things are now considered human right. and for good reason. It's a human right to be able to practice your work, and therefore you will need certain services in order to do work from home if you are working from home. It's a human right to be able to access your bank account. It's a human right to be able to access the internet in order to engage with public services. You know, if you want to claim benefits or anything like that, or apply for a passport. And so these things are meant to be now a human right, and in fact it is. I think internet access is actually on a part of the Human Rights Act now, and it's also, I think, that everybody should be able to access a mobile phone. You know, even if it's one of those kind of burner phone, pay-to-go things, and that's because transport, use an app, buy tickets now. Where I live, that's the only way to buy a ticket. And also, as I said, banking and other access of essential services, like, for example, your tax office. So that's what we're lumbered with, average family between about 3,000 and 7,000 a year. And I remember back fondly to a time when, say up to about 1990, actually. So certainly from 1970 to 1990, when I was in existence, I remember my outgoings in my first couple of apartments, and I can't remember. I used to pay the council tax, of course, which was about 50 quid up to 50 quid a month or something. And then you had your phone, landline phone, and how much would that cost? Well, it wasn't 7,000 a year, that's for sure. I think in about 1980 it was around £50 a year. And of course you had to pay for calls, and that's why people were very careful before they even made a phone call. I mean, we're very kind of fast and loose now, aren't we, with the way that we spend our digital currency money, things for, it's not something now that we hold back on. But even making a phone call, then we had to consider the cost. We'd have to keep the phone call short, or we would avoid long distance phone calls entirely. And on top of that, the only other sort of regular thing was to do with telecommunications was the TV license. TV license, of course, is still going. So why am I mentioning this? Well, there are a couple of things, weren't there, in the paper today, and I was interested. The Police Federation have said that they think that WhatsApp should be banned for under 16s. Now, why? Now, we all use WhatsApp. Most of us use WhatsApp, or a messaging service. WhatsApp is encrypted. That means that the only person who can really read your message is the person who receives it. And in other words, there's a kind of privacy thing. And they don't really like that privacy. And they want to remove it from young people who they think may be taking advantage of it. So, in other words, a system which we've all come to rely on may be changed into something which we can no longer rely on for privacy. And there's nothing we can do about it. We have no say in it. It's just the way things are going. And so whether or not our information is available to other people is kind of out of our hands to some extent. And although encryption is perfectly legal and it's actually subject to various EU regulations that our data should be private, there are ways around it. And for example, by banning young people from using that system is one. Have you noticed also today that there's a trend among the phone manufacturers to give us little seeded warnings at the moment about how, I'm not going to say the days of the cheap phone are over, but certainly that phones are going to get more expensive. And I think this is very interesting. Why are they getting more expensive? Well, because of chips, apparently. So, because chips are so in demand at the moment, mobile phones will inevitably go up in price. Why are chips in demand? Well, because of the increasing development of data centers. And so now we're in a situation where we are wholly 100% reliant on the phone. And yet we are at the mercy now of this kind of movement to increase the value of each phone during manufacture. And we're going to pick up the price for that. In fact, the new MacBook Neo, as I'm sure most of you know, is a laptop that's designed around, I'm not going to say broken chips, that would be unfair, but certainly chips that were not optimum during the manufacturing process. That one of their cores had been damaged and they were chucked in what they call a bin. And they use these binned chips because they're still good enough to use, but not good enough for premium laptops. I mean, my phone, when I got it only 2 years ago, I was paying €7 a month for the most basic subscription. I mean, it hardly did anything, but I needed it around, you know. I needed to be able to get a bus ticket, you know, whatever. That then doubled to 14. I just had an email about a year ago or 2 years ago, and now it's doubled again to nearly doubled to €25 a month for the most sort of basic. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm paying now, you know, I don't really use the phone, and I'm now paying 300 or something euros a month for a phone I don't really want, but I have to have. I just want the basic. I don't want anything that's singing or dancing. And so I thought, well, I'll have a look round. And of course, I had a look, and all the competitors were charging the same basic price that it had been. Basically, it was a price fixing, you know, rather like opticians are into price fixing, rather like veterinarians are into price fixing. All of these illegal kind of cartels, which are not illegal because they know so many loopholes. You know what it's like. You go and buy a pair of glasses, you know they're ripping you off. You go to the vet, you know they're ripping you off. You go to your telecommunication company, you know they're charging you excessive. But there's no other competitors in sight who are going to do you a better deal. These cartels they're basically money machines. So, yeah, what's the moral of this tale? Well, the moral is that something which is as essential as the air we breathe is now a kind of noose around our neck, and they can tighten it whenever they want in any direction. And I'm pissed off about it. And I remember fondly, as I said, the days where you had to think about every phone call you make. Well, now I don't really have any say in it because, you know, you can't just pick and choose whatever you want. You have to just take the lot or nothing. And that's why I'm going to be spending a lot more time down here now and a lot less time in the digital world if I can possibly help it. Anyway, have a great day.